What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you with a special Movement Plays of the Week 2022 National Football League Draft Edition. And we're going to dive into the movement skill of a number of top performers that are entering the National Football League here in 2022. The very first one we're going to dive into is running back from Iowa State, Breece Hall. Breece is expected to go either the first or second running back off of the board. He's widely considered to probably be the best all-around running back for most draft pundits. Now, we're going to get into both strengths and weaknesses to a certain degree, but our actual plays that we're going to look at are going to feature what I feel is maybe the best of the performer's skill set. And we're going to see that right off the bat with Breece Hall. Here, week 9 of the 2021 college football season when Iowa State went up against Texas. You can see here right off the bat, Iowa State is behind Texas at this moment in time on Fox, again in week 9. Two-time All-American in Breece Hall, both in the 20 season as a sophomore and then in the 21 season as a junior. Two-time All Big 12 performer, as well as Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Had 20 touchdowns in 20. I want to say, actually, let's flip-flop that. 21 touchdowns in 2020 and 20 touchdowns in 21. So Roger Craig's cousin here in Breece Hall, ironically enough, and I could kind of see Breece Hall being used in a similar fashion as maybe Roger Craig was back in the day for the San Francisco 49ers. So strengths and weaknesses right off the bat that we're going to see here today are going to be him really utilizing his high level athleticism. He has elite level athleticism at the running back position. So we see him being utilized a lot, not only at Iowa State, but predominantly will be used in this way, I would expect, in the National Football League on a lot of stretches, pitches, outside zone, swing pass type of scenarios. He's very comfortable catching the football out of the backfield. So in today's National Football League, his skill set, as long as he finds himself in the right place at the right time and with the right offensive play caller, should have an opportunity to flourish. What we see with a lot of stretches and pitches from him, or even stuff where he's running between the tackles at the first level, he is often looking for the opportunity to bounce it and bounce it wide. So he's much more comfortable in outside zone versus inside zone. He does have some between tackle elusive agility, though I think, particularly in tighter traffic and when the complexity of problems increases, we do see some room for improvement needed there from him. I do find that he is very, very comfortable in space. A lot of that is because he has an opportunity to really get on the gas pedal and put that elite level athleticism to use. He does have some novelty in his movement strategies and solutions that he comes up with. You'll see an adjustability within spin moves. You'll see some quick hurdles as we're about to today. And then we're also going to see him a little bit kind of find that gas pedal, work with it, kind of temper the storm, work through the gears a bit. But I believe at the National Football League level, he will have to add some layers to some of those speed options, especially when, and when I say speed options, I mean the strategies that he will utilize to put that speed to use. Obviously, in the National Football League, gaps change considerably, space closes considerably, and you will have to do more to make guys miss, to leave guys in some of these types of elusive agility scenarios or situations in comparison to what he did at the college level. Obviously, space closes and condenses very, very rapidly at the National Football League level. Not quite like what he saw here. So some of his weaknesses from a movement problem solving standpoint, particularly in tighter space Or again, when the complexity of the problem goes up, what does that mean? More interacting component parts, more bodies in tighter spaces. He does need to increase upon his layered perception and action coupling, make some guys miss. He sometimes misses some affordances or opportunities to act within tight space. He gets going a little bit too quickly. He needs to be a little bit more patient here, particularly at the second or maybe even at the third level between the hashes in tighter space. He does have some great patience behind the line of scrimmage where he is looking to set up and utilize his blockers there. So all things that we're finding from him that could allow him to, like I said, flourish at the National Football League level. So, as we did during the 2021 National Football League season during our movement plays of the week, we're going to let the play run in its entirety first off, and then we'll go ahead and watch it in slow motion, look at these local or micro problems and how they are simultaneous and successively stacked with one another, or the affordances and the problems that exist there. So as we look at this play, obviously we see option pitch to the left, and then he quickly gets in the open field and shows off some of that athleticism on a number of different fronts here. Let's watch it one more time at the higher speed, and then we'll go ahead and see it from another view as well. So if you haven't seen this play before, this is a great one that, again, shows off his skill set significantly. Okay, let me see if I can fast forward to when he will be going from the end zone view. Here we will have it. And again, anytime that you're looking at plays, analyzing and diving into the problem solution dynamics, the changing states of organization from the problem to the solver, you're going to go ahead and want to watch that on a number of different views, right? So you guys have heard me say that before. It will be bear repeating as we get back up into some of this analysis. So here we'll see it one more time at high speed, this time from this backwards end zone view. And Fox broadcast is giving us a good perspective to investigate. So let me get us back to the beginning here, if I could. Okay, and I'm kind of out of practice here, so I apologize for that. I got buttons all over the place. It's been a minute since I've done this, as I mentioned earlier. First and foremost, what we find from him is like I mentioned, he's often looking to hit the gas pedal, and he has very quick acceleration type of capabilities. So once he gets on the gas pedal, his second, third, and fourth step, he's at relatively high speeds in a hurry. Not only at the college level and at the college game, but at the National Football League level as well. Very similar to a certain degree, at least in this way, to our mover of the year from 2021 for the National Football League, Jonathan Taylor. So we see some similarities here, particularly in early acceleration. But like Jonathan Taylor, when he made the leap from Wisconsin to the National Football League at the Indianapolis Colts, I think Breece Hall will have to find ways of not getting into the gas pedal and not having picked up the information that is going to that he must couple his movement actions in relation to. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense, because at the college level, he was able to get into that gas pedal, and his athleticism allowed him to win in many of these problems. At the National Football League level, when the playing field has become more leveled, because guys are faster, space changes, and the complexity of the problems increases, Breece will have to tie his actions and his movements more tightly to the informational pickup. So that means his perception, or his information detection through his visual perception in particular, will have to become more sensitive. And that will happen once he puts himself or it gets into some of these problems. Okay. But as soon as he gets the ball here, and let me see if I can get myself kind of back into the swing of things with my spotlight. You see, let me go back 1-2 frames here. watch when he gets the ball. As soon as he gets the ball in his hands, he's looking up and you can see him kind of securing the ball, and the ball moves a bit in his hands because he's immediately looking for this interaction right here between his teammate and that opponent for Texas. Okay. So that Texas Longhorn and this Iowa State Cyclone, he being Breece Hall, is getting an opportunity to be able to take in this information in regards to essentially two places. Okay. So he's looking at a couple of different opportunities to act, but it is all centered around this dyadic relation right here. But obviously, as we can tell, number one, his blocker is in an advantageous position to the Texas Longhorn defender. So as he moves from right to left with his visual perceptual pickup, he quickly finds that this is the space over here, which is going to invite him to act in this respective way. So very, very tightly coupled here, but he's 5 yards away from this respective interaction. And there's a lot of space to operate from hash to sideline here. Okay. Even with this interaction that we see that is occurring up here. Okay. So once he gets into this gate, this acceleration type of gate or stance and phase, we find here that now he's able to operate in a way where that space is always inviting him. And very Jonathan Taylor, like again in his rookie year at the Indianapolis Colts in 2020, he's always looking for that space. And when he sees it, there's very, very little hesitation. It's very decisive. He's right up on that gas pedal. Okay. And so as he hits this gas pedal, as he sees this gap, this happens without hesitation. Okay. And he's into that gap, approaching the 45-yard line. Now, once he's at this place, he's zeroed in perceptually on a deeper safety that is completely off the screen at this moment in time, probably 10, 12-ish yards away at this moment as he crosses his own 45-yard line. Okay. But what he does with that early perceptual anchoring, so his gaze is being anchored on this defender from Texas who's coming into the mix, is he sets him up, and we can sort of see that, even though we can't see the defender, which I wish we could, because we must remember that behavior affords behavior. If we were to be able to actually see this guy, we would see what Breece Hall's behaviors. I almost said Jonathan Taylor there. You could tell I've just got out of a lot of Jonathan Taylor videos just a few months ago. But Breece Hall then begins to set him up. And so what I wish we could see at this moment, and we might be able to see it from the end zone view, is this behavior affording behavior. And this Bruce Lee idea of the highest technique is to have no technique. My technique is the result of your technique, my movement, the result of your movement. So we would see this mutual reciprocal relationship between Breece Hall's movement and what's unfolding from him in his changing states of organization, tied very closely with the defender. But of course, we can't exactly see this until a few moments from now. So there, as we see him give that look and duck, that little bit of feint. Let's go back. I don't want you to miss this. Okay. So right here, watch him duck there. So he ducks this in hard. And now we see this defender right here enter the mix, right? Now, Breece Hall was perceptually connecting to that defender's movement, as well as the changing interpersonal distance, body posture and positions, the speeds in the relative velocity between Breece Hall's movement and this defender, this safety's movement. Okay. Those things he was connecting and then coupling his movement to well before we can even see it taking place. Okay. So this is really where Breece Hall in space, very, very comfortable, very, very strong in these types of scenarios and situations. So he actually, when he leans to his left here, gives him this sort of head nod. And if I could get my arrow back, gives him this head nod and this deceptive perceptual pickup. So there's a purposeful deception in disguise here that Breece is going to get to the sideline, go to the sideline. There's another thing that we have to remember here is that the first down marker lies right here. So this is a local intention, an intentional aim to act in a given way. He knows that picking up that first down is objective number one right here, right now, right? And that should all make some sense. But as soon as, and I shouldn't say as soon as, it just appears to be as such. Once he throws this subtle deception and this safety right here where my mouse is on, I should have probably given you the spotlight. Look at this body position that he has. It looks like he's coming right here to fill this space. And once 28, Breece Hall picks that up, he throws his foot down and in a right to left type of fashion, without hesitation, he executes this crossover at about the 43, 44 yard line. Boom, he's right up into it. Obviously, this guy now is dead to rights. It looks like he's still in a place or a position to potentially make a tackle attempt at Breece Hall, but Breece Hall has manipulated that spatial relationship between he and that defender very, very well. But at the NFL level, when players have the ability to be more open, more responsive, to be able to move left or right, to be able to adapt once they're out of position, this is something that Breece Hall will have to improve upon. He will have to improve his own skilled intentionality. What do I mean by that? Again, the openness and responsiveness to a wide range of affordances. Because when defenders such as safeties in open space, number one, there won't be this amount of open space in most cases in these types of problems at the National Football League level. Number two, the defenders that are coming here, number 90 and whatever number this guy happens to be, close space very quickly as well. Okay. So he will have to remain perceptually attuned, whether that's visually knowing where they are, but he's probably not going to glance over his shoulder. He has to have a kinesthetic sense and feel of where these guys are coming from, chasing him from behind. So I do believe that his perceptual pickup, his information detection, has to become more sensitive, aka more attuned to chasing defenders when he's being chased. Who's there? What's there? How fast are they coming? And what does it mean for what's happening in front of me? Okay. Now I'm nitpicking here because obviously we're talking about number one or number two running back off the board, but that's what we do here at Football Beyond the Stats, right? So now that he's moved this guy into this space, what will usually happen at the National Football League level, if I could get one more step there, is these guys, these defenders, have a wider range of action capabilities. They have a wider open toolbox, and they typically have more compensation or adaptability ability, right? So they might get their hand on the running back in space in this case, okay, or in these cases. But in this respective play, it doesn't obviously happen. Okay. So he will have to develop some increased skilled intentionality in these types of scenarios and situations. Okay. That's really all I'm saying. Once he gets past that, though, and he gets past this safety's tackle attempt. Now, I should mention, and I should give kudos and credence and credit where credit is due. And that Breece Hall, I believe, forced the most amount of tackles. He forced the most missed tackles in all of college football in 2021. Cat got my tongue there. You can tell I'm a little out of practice. But he picks up the first down here out of this missed tackle attempt, and he gets a very clear perceptual pickup. We can sort of begin to see it here. Okay. What's he looking for? Where is he looking for it? And when he does so, what is he actually picking up as he does so? And as he does this, we see that he's going to start to have this defender that's coming up here in a bit, from hash to sideline. He's going to work them in that way. Watch. Okay. He very clearly picks up this perceptual information. I got a little bit too far back behind there. Okay, we get past this one. Now watch right here. Very clear perceptual pickup. He changes his movement strategy ever so slightly. He changes his tempo to give himself the option to be able to control this crossover cut from left to right in a little bit more controlled manner, in a safer manner, to be able to time it where he wants to, when he wants to, in relation to where this guy is going. Okay. So now we see some other perceptual informational cues that are candidate control parameters that he may be picking up. Okay. What are we? Speed that 25 is moving at, bearing angle that 25 is moving at, this posture in position, which obviously shows the limited affordances that 25 has available to him. As soon as Breece Hall picks this up, that's where you see him change his tempo ever so slightly. I apologize because it is such a long highlight film. It's hard to get back frame by frame here. So I apologize for that. Hopefully you guys give me a little bit of leeway here. But watch right here. Okay, 25 still off the screen, but look at him change his tempo because he knows, picks up very attunely, very attunely. I don't know if that's even a word, very sensitively. He picks up where 25 is going, how he's going there, the gap that exists, not only, okay, let me draw some things for you. The gap that exists not only here, which there was probably an option to go to, but also back here to the big part of the field, the wide part of the field. And that's the thing with Breece Hall. Because of his speed, because of his athleticism, he wants to be in open space. And he is often being beckoned or invited and called to come to it. Okay. But this information movement coupling, this crossover, takes him where he wants to go, back behind 25. And as he does that, he turns 25 around and he clearly, again, once again, anchors his perceptual gaze now to the next defender. Okay. In open space with a lot of space to operate in, he has very sensitive, very attuned perceptual pickup, always looking for opponents, whether it's in the form of colors or whether it's in the form of the actual players themselves in their movement behaviors. We don't really know the answer to that. It's just his eyes and his visual pickup quickly darts to that next opponent. And that's obviously something that will serve him well at the National Football League level when problems do change as frequently and as often as they do in a repetition without repetition type of fashion. Moment by moment, these problems are constantly changing. We've talked about this numerous times before. So he gets moving fast back to the middle of the field now. And now we see 9 come into the mix. Okay. So watch this out of this crossover here. Very quick perceptual pickup right behind the back of 25, and look at him anchor his visual gaze. I believe this is on number 9 here, the next defender. Then he looks over to his right. And what does he see? I have help. This help is going to now be this layered problem solving. This is something that I think in tighter traffic, with greater complexity, or within greater complexity, but with greater experience, Breece Hall in his skill set will start to evolve in tighter space as well, because he does do this where he uses his own blockers to set up additional opportunities. So he sees them in his periphery just ever so slightly, and he's like, I am going to use you to my advantage here at this moment to get past and wall off number 9. But number 9 actually does a great job adapting through the tackle attempt, and Breece Hall just has to adapt accordingly. And he uses that without, and that's just a nifty little short, low hurdle that, again, I've seen him do that a number of times on highlights, and that athleticism is very much on display. That little short hurdle the gallop to the hurdle and then right back into speed is something that he does really, really nicely. And you see it on other plays, not so much on this one, not at all on this one, but in other times, he'll actually do that. Um, in tighter space at times as well, particularly near the line of scrimmage at the first and second level, and that's something that seems to be very adjustable for him, and that he will resort to. Once he gets out of that, though, it could be argued that he must need to perceive quicker here, or that he should perceive quicker. We see him give the glance there at number 25, who's now back on the, he was postered here. He's going to be postered again a second time, simply because he was involved in a number of missed opportunities. We see him look right there as now he is starting to get a little bit more fatigued. He being Breece Hall, number 28. He's gives the quick glance here. Where's 25? How is he moving? What's his bearing angle? What speed is he moving at? What kind of space do I have to operate in? All kinds of layered potential key candidate control parameters that are operating as informational variables that Breece Hall must couple his movement actions to. In the National Football League, he will have to, and I've already said this, perceive more rapidly out of some of the novel types of movement actions. Here we saw it out of the hurdle, but also we see it at the college level out of spins. And I think at the NFL level, you start executing through some of these novel type of fashions, spins, hurdles, different forms of cuts that maybe are emerging in a creative way in action, okay, in the moment, emerging from the problem solution dynamics. You must constantly be ready to take in additional information and connect to it, because the problems just change too rapidly and the players are just too adaptable. Okay. So I know I'm nitpicking. Okay. But at the NFL level, he will have to be much more sensitive perceptually to what's changing and how it's changing. Let's go ahead and fast forward here, if I could, to wherever the end zone view starts. And I think it's right about here somewhere. So again, I hate to nitpick throughout. No, I didn't catch it. Let's hang tight with me if you would, please. There we are. So now we see it again from the end zone view. Remember, once we see it from multiple views, there's other things that we'll be able to pick up. We see him get the ball, look to where his eyes are. Granted, it's a little blurry, but you can see he's locked in to this blocker opponent dyadic relationship and quickly moves on to space. Again, this perceptual pickup here with number 14. Okay, he is zeroed in, as I told you from the other view, from 12-ish yards, maybe even a little bit more, 12 to 13 yards. Those problems are very, very rare at the National Football League level, especially with that kind of space, that type of gap to operate left to right. But let's go ahead and maybe look at this environment and measure this environment, if you will. But look at how far away he is right now. This is, I said 12 or 13. He's probably about 15-ish yards away right now. And he's already, as y'all can tell, connected right there. Again, what types of things could he be taking in? Those key candidate control parameters. Interpersonal distance. He knows that there's a lot. He's going to be feeling for this large space that exists right here. This type of space doesn't usually exist in the National Football League. He's likely taking in relative velocity values. So just subconsciously, less conscious and probably more subconscious or unconscious, he's taking in the information in regards to relative velocity values. How fast am I moving? How fast are our spaces closing to one another? But he's also looking at posture and position in the pattern that number 14 here is executing in. And he quickly finds that this is an opportunity to put this guy on my poster. Now we're going to be able to see what I mentioned earlier. Behavior affords behavior. Watch how Breece Hall acts. Let's just make sure I have this at the speed I do. I do. And in relation to number 14. Gives him that head nod, pulls him right into that space. And now we see a lot of space to operate in here, right? And he's moved on at this point, even though that's a pretty decent interpersonal distance. That 3, 4, 5 yard window at the college game will quickly be reduced to 2 or 3 yards at the National Football League level. And that's why I say that he will have to be more open and more responsive, AKA more intentional about this interpersonal distance and keeping his options open. He does need to gain a few more, a little bit more abundance, meaning a few more strategies and solutions that if at the NFL level, if this guy, number 14, were to adapt and close this space, okay, from right to left, so he were able to throw that right foot into the ground and close this space here to make a tackle attempt, what we would like to see, or what I would like to see from Breece Hall, would be still having the possibility of, now he doesn't need to in this case, right? But at the NFL level, he might need to throw this foot back down and move back from left to right, spin, hurdle, cut again, whatever it may be, okay? Again, I'm nitpicking here, but at the NFL level, you're not going to see a lot of this, right? And so now let's go ahead and move on. This perceptual pickup once again, number 25 here. I'm not sure if he even feels the guys coming from behind. And this is what I talked about earlier. I know I'm just kind of like riffing here, looking at what we're finding. Number 90 and number 5 at the NFL level are going to be coming in a hurry. That number 90 will be able to move, even though this is at high speeds, crossover, more curvilinear type of fashion. There are some defenders, offside linebackers, and even defensive ends in the league who might be pursuing and coming in pretty hot here. But nonetheless, Breece Hall can only solve the problems that are placed in front of him, right? And so we're just seeing this all from a different angle. And really, we hopefully will be able to pick up some nuances of some things that we didn't pick up before. Okay. So some cool stuff, some good stuff, obviously from Breece Hall on this play. I apologize through some of the fumbling that I had throughout the video, but what we found there is Breece Hall has the capabilities in the right place at the right time at the National Football League level, where he's going to be able to excel with his skill set, particularly in space, particularly making guys miss within space. But I do believe as though he needs to gain a little bit more abundance within his strategies and his solutions, adding some power cuts into the mix, adding some speed cuts, some bilateral type of speed cuts, less reliance on a lunge cut and a crossover cut, even though they're very, very functional and effective at the college level. Start to add some differences in speed options, some deceptive changes in his speeds, all connected to the problems that are unfolding from the opponents that are placed in front of him. And then finally, I think that he does need to definitely gain some attunement, some awareness, some sensitivity in tighter space when more bodies are in tighter space where the complexity is higher, and to find some opportunities, some gaps, some openings, and get a little bit more wiggle and shake and putting moves on top of moves, as opposed to just all the one cut violence and into from a cutting action and agility action right into a strength or more power oriented action. So that's essentially what I've seen from Breece Hall. It wasn't truly a deep dive into his skill set per se, just highlights. But I'm very anxious to see where he ends up, obviously on Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this next week for the National Football League draft. Guys and gals, this was just our first edition of the 2022 National Football League Draft Movement Plays of the Week / Movement Analysis. I hope you'll join me for the next number of videos here to come.